Good morning, everybody. If you could get seated as when you have a chance. And wonderful to see everybody here. Thank you. Thank you for the lights. Awesome. So good morning. Good morning. And welcome to the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists. My name is Gay Roselle, and I will be your service leader today. If you are visiting, please participate as you feel comfortable. You're invited to stay and introduce yourself in conversation following the service. Oh, good. Okay, we're getting the lights, backup lights. Okay. We have the candles over here, which are lovely. And then, okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Okay. So if you are visiting, please feel free to participate as you feel comfortable. And you're invited to stay and introduce yourself in conversation following the service. Okay. And the lighting it feels really nice with the... Okay, what do we do? Okay. All right, thank you. Woo. Our congregation is committed to individual freedom of belief, welcomes diversity, seeks to promote a sense of community, and fosters religion which enriches the spirit. We are mostly a lay-led community, strengthened and enriched by weaving together the volunteer contributions of members and friends. Our community is supported and guided by our new minister, Reverend Florence Kaplow. As we begin this service, please take a couple of breaths to become fully present. Relax, bring your attention to this moment of communal reflection and sharing. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Swabash Coast Salish Native people. The Puyallup people have lived on and stewarded these lands since the beginning of time and continue to do so today. We recognize that this land acknowledgement is one small step toward true allyship, and we commit to uplifting the voices, experiences, and histories of the indigenous people of this land and beyond. I invite you to join me in a responsive reading. It is good. It is good. It is good to be. It is good to be. It is good to be here. It is good to be here. It is good to be here together. It is good to be here together. And I'd like to invite Beth White to come up and light our chalice.
Let us light our chalices together in person and online. With these words by Betts Weinecke. May this flame, symbol of transformation since time began, fire our curiosity, strengthen our wills, and sustain our courage as we seek what is good within and around us.
Oh, it's a little dark in here. A dark morning, but I can see you. It is good to be with you this morning. I had no idea those were going to be the words of the kind of affirmation. It is good to be with you this morning. It is really, really good to be with you this morning. Yay! And thank you, particularly to all those who came yesterday. We had I think we had 30 people here. How many people here were here yesterday? Look at that, and you're back this morning. How sweet is that? Well, thank you. The bond between a minister and a congregation is a sacred one. And I am honored to be on this journey together with you. I know that over the coming months, we will get to know each other. But part of how people get to know each other is through finding commonalities. And though each of us is utterly unique and irreplaceable, we also share experiences, ideals, places we've lived, things we've done, things we love. So if you hear something we have in common this morning, be sure to come up and tell me about it, maybe after this service or sometime in the future. I'd love to hear. I also want to acknowledge that though this is a joyous service, we are not in a joyous time. So I want to dedicate my words today, our time together today, the first as your minister, to the safety and well-being of immigrants, refugees, asylum seekers across the United States. To those who are giving their lives and have given their lives to protect their neighbors. And to those who are in the streets today in Minneapolis and elsewhere, being courageous for all of us. The hymns we're going to sing this morning are all my favorites, and I heard that they are also the favorites of this congregation. So, it's one thing that we have in common. When I was welcomed into the Starr King School for the Ministry in Berkeley as a UU seminarian, the song that ushered all of us, the new students, across the threshold of the school that day is the one that we're about to sing. Based on the words of the Sufi mystic Rumi and interpreted by the American poet Coleman Barks. It's hymn number 188 in the gray hymnal. I don't know how you're going to read your hymnal this morning, but, and you can stay seated because we're just going to do it 3 times through, just as a kind of a centering hymn. Is it 188? Is that right? Okay, good. Come, come, whoever you are. And if anybody wants to come up and song lead, that'd be great.
Thank you, everybody. And the lights we felt were a nice, the little lights were a nice opportunity to enjoy the space. But we'll see if we can read the music. So I would like to invite Mary DeMange to come up and do our first reading.
Good morning. The Little Duck by Donald Babcock. Now we're ready to look at something pretty special. It is a duck riding the ocean 100 feet beyond the surf. No, it isn't a gull. A gull always has a raucous touch about him. This is some sort of duck, and she cuddles in the swells. She isn't cold, and she's thinking things over. There is a big heaving in the Atlantic, and she is part of it. She looks a bit like a mandarin, or the Lord Buddha meditating under the bo tree. But she hardly has enough above the eyes to be a philosopher. She has poise, however, which is what philosophers must have. She can rest while the Atlantic heaves, because she rests in the Atlantic. Probably she doesn't know how large the Atlantic Ocean is, and neither do you. But she realizes it. And what does she do, I ask you? She sits down in it. She reposes in the immediate as if it were infinity, which it is. She has made herself part of the boundless by easing herself into just where it touches her. I like the duck. She doesn't know much, but she's got religion.
So I chose that reading. It is one of my favorites. And I did change the pronouns. I hope that's all right. And as I was coming from Maury Island, which is where I'll be staying each month that I'm here this morning, I was watching the ducks as they do these beautiful dives where they just, there's this effortless kind of movement into the water and then back out. It was wonderful to see them. Okay, here we go. There is a play called The Complete Works of William Shakespeare Abridged, in which the actors go through all 27 Shakespeare plays in 90 minutes. Well, that's kind of what you're going to get today. The complete life of Reverend Florence Kaplow, abridged, all 61 years in 20 minutes, if all goes well. Over my years in ministry, I've noticed that people have said to me months or years after I arrived, "Oh, I had no idea you worked in Alaska, lived in a monastery, were married at one time." And I could see that it feels strange to not know the basic life story of your minister. So here it is, the one and only time. Although I do tell a lot of stories, so you'll get little pieces of it at other times. So I was born in 1964 in Englewood, New Jersey. My father was a sociologist teaching at Columbia University at that time, and my mother was a graduate student in art history at Columbia University. I have a very wonderful and complicated immediate family with 11 half and step brothers and sisters, 25 years between the oldest and the youngest. I'm down near the kind of bottom of the group. I'm the third youngest. When I was just a few months old, my father left my mother. So she raised me as a single mother, and my two older siblings with my mother were much older, and so really it was just the two of us as I was being brought up. When I was 3, she moved to Terre Haute, Indiana for a job to become a professor at Indiana State University in art history, where she taught until her retirement. Although home base was Terre Haute, middle of the Bible Belt, my mother's art history research was in Florence, Italy. And so I spent significant parts of my childhood in Florence. And in fact, my mother, until her dying breath, called me not Florence, but Firenze, the Italian for Florence. I was also named for my grandmother of Florence on my father's side, who I never met. She died before I was born. But that side of my family is the Jewish side of my family. And so and I know that she was an extraordinarily gracious and generous person from all the stories I've heard. And so I love that I carry her name and that part of my family forward as well. On my mother's side, I come from a long line of Iowa Unitarians, agnostics, free thinkers, feminists. I'll tell more stories about them at some point, but it's a great story, all the way back to my great-great-great-grandmother. My mother was a lifelong, passionate Unitarian with a deep knowledge of the history and the values and ideals. And she really lived those values. I grew up in this rambling, sometimes falling down Victorian. And it was the kind of place where someone was often seeking and finding shelter. Women who were leaving terrible marriages, foreign students who needed a place to live, wayward teenagers, all kinds of people. And where the house was put up for bail for arrested hippies more than once. And where Now magazine and Mother Jones magazines showed up in the mail every single month. The UU Fellowship was just a couple blocks away in the same neighborhood. By high school, I was thinking a lot about pacifism and nonviolence and writing essays about the anarchist Emma Goldman. I caused a fair amount of trouble for my social studies teachers. A radical view of history, economics, and justice came as naturally to me as knowing my own name because of how I was being brought up. I took my first college class at 13. And when I was 16, I dropped out of high school and attended university full time. And I hate to tell you this now, but your new minister does not have a high school diploma. This is the truth. So there was no running start or any of that. I just left. Since I was a child, my deepest questions have been around the immense sufferings in this world and the forces of war, violence, and exploitation that I could see everywhere. As a teen, I wasn't strong enough to bear it. I wasn't resilient enough to bear it. Our theme is embodying resilience. That's really hard when you haven't had a lot of life yet. I struggled with profound depression without the framework to understand this world that seemed so cruel to me. My only refuges were forests and rivers, well, and books too, where my spirit could rest. When I was 18, I left, I'd already at that point had a couple of years of college. I left college for a semester and did a 3-month Outward Bound course for college students based on Hurricane Island in Maine. The course included the usual intense physical and emotional challenges that are part of Outward Bound, but also natural history, inner exploration. It's where I learned to meditate, service work, and contact with extraordinary people, including Helen and Scott Nearing, who were in their 90s at the time. Some of you, I'm hearing appreciative sounds. They were the founders of the Back to the Land movement in the 1940s. And it was extraordinary to spend a day with them as part of my Outward Bound experience. And that was a turning point in my life. It opened me up to much of what has sustained me through adulthood, and a direct experience of my own strength and courage and capacity, which I hadn't known before. After Outward Bound, actually it was longer than a semester that I was out of college, a family friend who was a socialist lawyer told me about the Community for Creative Nonviolence, a Catholic-based, radical Catholic-based homeless rights community in Washington, D.C. And I went to live in that community. This was my very first experience of inner city life, of living in intentional, spiritually based, multiracial community, and encountering homelessness and severe mental illness. It taught me a lot about my own limits as an 18-year-old and of my desire to continue to grow that capacity in the face of so much suffering. After my time in D.C., I decided in January of 1984 to finish my college at the Evergreen State College in Olympia, Washington, because Outward Bound had opened me up to what it meant to really learn not so much from books, but direct experience, and that's a big part of Evergreen. Do we have any greeners here? Raise your hand. Ooh, I saw one in the back. Yes, yay. I so wanted to get out of the Midwest and to the mountains of the West. And at Evergreen, I studied botany and ecology, natural history. I got out into those mountains and into the deserts of eastern Washington and eastern Oregon. And I also began a Buddhist meditation practice during my time in Olympia. And 2 years later, I went on my first silent meditation retreat in the hills of Sonoma County. I used to say, some people bow east to Mecca. I bow south to Marin County, Sonoma County. That's where all the Buddhism was happening at that time. And during that retreat, this women's retreat, I fell into a joy that I really hadn't known was possible in this life. And for 40 years now, ever since that retreat, Buddhist contemplative practices have really been central to my life and have given me the inner strength to carry on as an activist and as a human being in this often bewildering world. In 1987, I met my future husband, Kurt Russo. I told you that I did get married at one point, and moved up to Lummi Island. So some of you know Lummi Island off Bellingham, where Kurt worked for the Lummi Nation and did actually for his entire adult career, doing environmental and treaty rights and working with the elders in the community. In the years that we were together, I really learned about resilience and about love from the people at Lummi, and about how to really take care of each other in grief and trouble, which, and believe me, grief and trouble is everywhere in Indian country. Just try loving a community where the average life expectancy is 48 years old. A lot of funerals. I will be forever grateful for the degree with which I was accepted and allowed into that community as a witness to the traditional, cultural, and religious life, which included an ancient and powerful form of indigenous spirituality, which is called Siawan, sometimes called smokehouse or winter ceremonials. And to this day, one of my passions as a minister and a person is to be an ally for indigenous peoples and to stand beside them when they are doing so much to try to protect our world. Very inspiring for me. So if anybody wants to talk to me about that, please do. So every spring and summer during those years that I was up in Bellingham and for years afterwards, I worked as a field botanist all over the West, from Alaska to the Mojave Desert. And what I was doing surveys for endangered plant species. And that work was extraordinary. I got to see some of the most beautiful places on our planet and also find species. Here's something what you wouldn't know otherwise. My field partner and I found species new to science in eastern Washington. So it was an incredible time. And then every winter, so that was the field season, every winter I would try to do what I could to be on retreats, Buddhist retreats in California and later in Washington when they started to happen here. In the winter of 1998, I spent 3 months deep in the Los Padres wilderness of California at the Tassajara Zen Mountain Monastery. And when I returned home, I found that Kurt had decided to leave our relationship and marriage after 11 years. A year later, I became seriously ill with an autoimmune rheumatoid illness. And, I think there's a connection between deep grief and the development of illness. Although I was episodically sick from that time on through 2006 and beyond, I became the lead conservation botanist for the state of Washington, working for the Washington Natural Heritage Program, which is part of the Department of Natural Resources, which was an amazing job. I got to really think about how do we protect the rarest plants in our state. And we have plants here that occur nowhere else in the world and are critically imperiled. And so it was my job to protect them, which was a wonderful thing to be able to do. I loved it. But unfortunately, the intensity of the work, by the end of my 5th year, I was in a lot of pain all the time. And I asked for a year's leave without pay and began one of the most unusual and really spiritually aligned parts of my life. I sold my house. I bought a biodiesel car, which this was 2005. I was still driving it until last year, and decided that I would spend that year doing the things that most mattered to me while I still could, because the way I'd been diagnosed, it was obvious that it could develop in a way that these would no longer be possible for me. So I completely gave up any kind of permanent home. This would not be the normal advice for somebody who was dealing with serious illness, but that's what I needed to do. The very first thing I did was spend 2 months in silent retreat at the Spirit Rock Meditation Center in Marin County. After that, I was in and out of retreat. I spent time with dear friends. I said, I will go where I'm needed, wherever that is. I spent time in the wilderness, and I began writing really seriously. At the end of that year, I decided not to go back to the full-time job that I had loved so much. And this life of voluntary simplicity and dedication to spiritual practice continued for years. In 2007, I ordained as a Soto Zen priest. I had been practicing Zen since about 1990, but that ripened to ordination. And then a year later, I was given a graduate research fellowship from the National Science Foundation for a full ride for a PhD in botany and ecology. And so I was going to go to University of Northern Arizona to do work around climate change, and I moved to Flagstaff, and I was too sick to start my program. Yeah. So there I was in Flagstaff, waiting to see if I would get well enough to start this program. And in my sorrow and pain and confusion, I wandered into the local UU church, Beacon UU. And I sat in the back, feeling that I was with my people and wept during every joys and sorrows. Some of you may have had that experience. Maybe it's part of what brought you here. I was so moved by the heart that I felt in that little congregation. That was the time when gay marriage had been legalized in California, but nowhere else. And there were all these long-time gay couples who were going to California and getting married and coming back and announcing it in joys and sorrows. And everybody was cheering with joy. And I was weeping because it was so beautiful. the pandemic. Wow, that was a hard time to serve a congregation. I know it wasn't fun to be in a congregation either, or anywhere else in that time. In the years before the pandemic, I grew a lot, and they grew until it was about 350 members, and almost too much, really, for one person. It was too much for one person. And as the pandemic, the worst of it was ending, I was hit with another autoimmune illness. And it was clear at that time that full-time ministry, or probably full-time work, would never be my path again if I wanted to maintain my health. So I stayed in the Midwest, even though I wasn't working anymore, for my mom, and we spent her last years together, and I was there as she died, and her spirit went free. Just last May, I moved back to the Pacific Northwest, which I didn't know, I wasn't sure I could pull it off. Because, for one thing, it's expensive out here, if you hadn't noticed. And it took a long time for my energy and health to be good enough that I could actually physically do the move. And it all came together in a way that just feels somewhat miraculous to me. And I landed in Port Angeles years before I'd made a commitment to the Salish Sea. I had said, I will protect you in whatever ways I can. And now I live where I see the Salish Sea every morning when I wake up. And to me, that's a miracle. So over the years, I figured out ways to support myself. I do a lot of teaching online. I teach Zen. I teach classes that, through various Zen centers, one for people with chronic illness. I was teaching on what we do. You heard my talk about practices in frightening times, and it's been wonderful. But I started to feel that I missed being connected to a congregation. But I knew I couldn't do full-time work. So I was looking out there, would there be a little congregation? I loved my little congregation in Colorado. Would there be a little congregation, sweet congregation that might want a part-time minister? And lo and behold, there was this sweet congregation on Vashon Island in the middle of the Salish Sea. Well, we have come to the end of the complete life of Florence Kapleau, abridged. So let's just have a moment of stillness, of connecting with your own life, the joys and sorrows, the challenges, the resilience in your own life. And now I invite you to rise in body or spirit for my other, it's almost everybody's favorite, let's face it, Blue Boat Home, which is 1064 in the Teal hymnal. And let's sing it like we mean it, whatever our journeys have been, because it is a song about the journeys of a life. So again, maybe we could have our wonderful song leaders up here.
Such a beautiful song. Wow. And I also just want to say what an honor and a privilege it is to have you with us, Reverend Florence. Oh my gosh. And I felt within your sermon that there were so many things that I resonated with, and I think everybody felt that in your presence. So thank you so much. Okay, so we will pause the recording now as we prepare our hearts for joys and concerns. Was that right? 391. 391 in the gray hymnal.
I'll play it through one.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and we will resume our recording as we finish the service. As members and friends of the Vashon Island Unitarian Universalists, we commit to supporting our congregation. Financial resources help us pay speakers and staff, support our social justice programs, and maintain our building. Please support VIUU with your pledges and offerings so that we can continue to be a vital community. Our congregation engages beyond our walls for peace, social, and economic justice, freedom of belief, and freedom of belief and protection of our planet and its inhabitants. Once a month, we contribute the financial offerings to a regional, national, or international organization that aligns with our values. This week's offering supports our beloved community. Okay, and the greeters will now pass the baskets, offering baskets. And as we receive our offering, please join in singing "We Give Thanks," which is on the inside of your gray hymnal. Okay, and so as we're going to transition directly to Florence. Okay, and so closing reading for Florence. Okay.
I want to close with a poem that has sustained me in the challenges of my life, and it's by Wendell Berry. It's called The Real Work. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we have come to our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings. So as we leave this sanctuary, I send a blessing with each and every one of you. Wherever your path leads, may it lead you toward greater compassion, connection, and love. Bright blessings to you until we are together again.
And I invite Kate to come up and extinguish our chalice.
We extinguish our chalice with these words by Elizabeth Celi Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you, Leslie. So I wanted to thank Reverend Florence Caplow for sharing a part of her life that's incredibly rich journey, which led her to us. To Leslie McMichael for the beautiful music. Mary DeMange for being our reader. Dennis Lambert for tech support and being right there when the power went out and getting it back on, and the work this morning with getting everything else situated. Thank you so much, and all the work you've done over the last several months. Hospitality team 2 for the wonderful snacks, for the bouquets, and everything, and the hardworking team that does that. So that would be, and let me know if I miss anybody. So, Vicki and Ted, I know they were here early, and Earl and Pam, who just came back from a trip to the Caribbean, like at midnight last night, and they came in this morning. Just we were making coffee, helped us with that, and also Maya and Dennis, for coming in, and other folks that came, and Beth that came in to help as well this morning. So and Greg Hall, thank you. Craig, okay, thank you. So hospitality team too, thank you for everything. And thanks to Reverend Victoria for telling Reverend Florence about our congregation and encouraging her to consider serving us and to the Ministerial Search Committee. So the hard work with that. So Beth White, Kate O'Hare, Robbie Rohr, and George Butler for bringing her to VIUU. And thank you to everyone for participating in today's service here at Lewis Hall and online. And please join us for refreshments following our VIUU events announcements. Okay, and announcements. If you have a brief announcement to share related to VIUU activity, please come up and share them at the sanctuary. Okay.
Good morning. I'm Marilee, and I'm here to remind everybody that on February 22nd, after the service, we'll have a conversation about The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I encourage you. I just spoke with Amy, who's finished it. Mary's reading it. I'm reading it again. I have a copy, this copy that I'm happy to loan, but I need it back pretty quickly so that I'll be ready for the discussion. After the service, February 22nd. Looking forward to it. And I just want to make one little brief announcement, which I think is VIUU related, which is next Sunday from 10 to 1 is the annual Seed Share, which is a joyous event on Vashon in which growers bring seeds that they don't need anymore, seeds that they've saved, and take-home seeds, and you're all invited. It's from 10 to 1 in the Ober Park building, new location this year. And I encourage you to come. It's a really heartening experience.
I'm Julia, and we not only have the Serviceberry event on February 22nd, but VIUU is also co-sponsoring an event on prison reform the same afternoon. This event is a screening of the documentary Pathway to Freedom, and it shows how 2 Washington inmates transformed their lives in prison, revealing why people cannot be defined by their darkest moments. The film is 25 minutes long, and we have this amazing opportunity with a panel discussion, including Willie Nobles, who is one of the people featured in the film, his mother, who is the main reason he got released from a 96-year sentence, and an attorney focused on ending mass incarceration. So again, this is a topic so big in our society these days. So please join us at the Land Trust. It's free. Tell your friends about it. Tell anybody who might be interested. 2 p.m. on February 22nd.
Good morning. Just wanted to let you know that our social justice group has set up a box over here. I put it up against the wall on March 22nd. Due to the swell of interest in No King's Day protests, we're going to have some time to make signs. And hoping that that's going to mean a lot of people are wanting to make signs, so we're trying to take a collection to get some nice, fat, juicy markers of different colors, some duct tape, poster board, foam core, cardboard, lath or sticks that'll work well to connect to a sign, but we're going to be, between now and then, collecting materials here so you can bring things by on Sunday or whenever you come by the building. Thanks.
So I just want to point out that we have managed to figure out how to thread in from both directions. It's pretty good, don't you think? That's pretty good, yeah. Anyway. So I'm currently the board chair, and so I'm speaking in that hat. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about our service last week and what we learned from it. And nothing is ever set. Everything is always evolving, and that's generally the opportunity to make things better. So we had the opportunity now to pick up a few things that we might have, anticipated but didn't, and put in some safeguards. So the first is that we have to make sure that we're welcoming to families. And we've gotten out of practice with that because we haven't had any. But there were some families here last week, and the subject matter was pretty heavy. And some of the parents left with their kids early. So we need to figure out to be ready for families. And so the thought has been to transform that room in the back into some place that kids could go. So, we need to be ready. And, maybe 4 times out of 5 we don't have any kids, but maybe the 5th one there'll be some kids, and we'll figure that out. So that's one thing. It's just how do we be more welcoming to families. The second is don't have a Q&A in the middle of the service for all kinds of reasons. One is that it really disrupts the intended flow, so that I think the program committee works really hard to balance like contemplation and learning and being challenged. But, Q&A is so unplanned, which is a good thing, but not a good thing in the middle of the service. So we're not going to do that anymore. And if we do Q&A, which is a great thing to do, we're going to do it after the services. So that's another one. Oh, the other thing is that we really have to be respectful of ourselves and start and end on time. And as a result of the Q&A last time, we went like 15, 20 minutes, a half hour over. And there was something planned afterwards, which was starting point, so they took the brunt of having to, resolve that. So we love to go on, and we should do that, but we also just really need to be cognizant of that. And so the one other little thing that is the service coordinators and leaders have really important, hard jobs to play sometimes. And some of that is being the protector of the quality of the service, which may mean that sometimes they have to say something, that might sound rude, like, oh, God, we really have to move this on now. Or, something like that. Just that I just want us to be backing our service leaders as empowered in their role, which is to protect the flow. Let's see. And then the last thing is that this is really a time of huge anxiety for all of us. It's a shitty time in a lot of ways. Sorry, but we need to, as a congregation, we need to be aware of that and responsive to it. And some of that means being anticipating what will happen. And last week we might have anticipated that there'd be a lot of anxiety and a lot of sorrow and a lot of anger that would come out of having to talk about what a bad job our government is doing right now. But we didn't necessarily. So that happened, and that's just something we can learn from, is that we need to pay attention to what our subjects are and what impact that's going to have on us. And the last thing is just that I want you to know that I think that the board's responsibility, as well as pastoral care and some of the other groups, is to really keep our eye on the emotional well-being of our congregation. So we need to know, what's going on for people, both as individually, which is what pastoral care does mostly, and also just what's the tenor, what's going on, what do we need to do to make it healthy and happier, and not just happier is a bad choice of words, to make it flow better and take care of people's needs. So anyway, sorry to take that much time, but I think it's a good thing to have all those learnings come out of something, because usually, you have to get swatted 6 or 7 times in different times, but we got it all at once. So.
In response to last week's service, I was with somebody from Indivisible, and I have a bag of whistles. And so, with lots of instructions. So I'm going to leave it at the table. Help yourselves. And the other thing is, next week, the Mystery and Wonder team is going to be doing the service on embodying resilience. See you there.
I have the most important announcement of the whole day relating to the future of this plastic cup. Somebody left it at my house during the women's group, so if you recognize it, it wants to go home. Oh, good, okay.
This Thursday, for the men that are interested, the men's group, Thursday the 12th, 4 to 5:30 at Bill Knoller's home. Thank you, Bill. And it's at 11210, yes. 94th or 99. Be a good idea to carpool if you guys come. But if not, we'll see you there.
Okay, I have one quick announcement. So back in the fall, as many of you may remember, George Butler really wanted to have Martin Koenig come to speak, and so he's going to be doing a service on the 22nd as well. So we're looking forward to that. So that's the other last. Okay, let's sing ourselves out with "Go Now in Peace."